to champion underrated films and filmmakers on this channel, and there's one filmmaker who isn't exactly underground, but I never hear him talked about, and I've been wanting to dedicate some time to him for a while now. Quentin Dupieux. For my money, this French filmmaker is one of the best surrealists working today in the medium of cinema.
Alors, Grégoire, c'est quoi ce film dans lequel...
C'est la nouvelle comédie de Quentin Dupieux.
C'est qui?
Je sais pas.
C'est le réalisateur, j'imagine.
Je pense.
Ça parle de quoi?
And I get it, surrealism isn't everyone's bag. It's a style that general audiences seem to often want to write off as pretentious, artsy-fartsy garbage. I don't agree by any stretch of the imagination, but I can understand the perspective coming from those who prefer traditional art, storytelling, and other standard techniques while finding surrealism impenetrable or off-putting. I can get into an hours-long debate with you if you call David Lynch's films pretentious, artsy garbage, and I have had many of these debates, but I don't think anyone could even make a case for Quentin Dupieux's films being pretentious or artsy-fartsy anything. He, more than any other filmmaker I can think of, excels at what I'm going to call lowbrow surrealism. And I mean that as a high compliment, not any kind of dig. He might not have the cachet or be anywhere near as renowned as the established master surrealist filmmakers of David Lynch, Charlie Kaufman, Alejandro Jodorowsky, Louis Buñuel, Terry Gilliam, Roy Andersson, and Federico Fellini, but he puts his own unique spin on the style that is wholly distinct. His lowbrow surrealism strips away the pretense of importance and the demand of analysis that surrounds much of surrealism as an art form, which is what I believe leads many to consider it a pretentious or impenetrable genre. Dupieux's films are accessible for the most part and revel in absurdity to comedic effect.
Oh no! I thought you were dead!
Yeah, me too.
Fuck!
What was the music you were listening to when you were driving? I liked it a lot.
True originality, big storytelling swings, and an ability to genuinely surprise are elements that I place great importance on in movies, and Quentin Dupieux's work ticks all three of those boxes every time.
Yes?
Are you the old person that lives in this house?
Yes?
Why should I give a shit?
I tend to gravitate towards filmmakers with truly unique perspectives, the kind of person who makes movies that nobody else could make on an infinite timeline. And Quentin Dupieux is one of those filmmakers. Take his 2019 film Deerskin, for example. No one else in a million years would make a movie where the main character's motivation is to destroy all of the jackets in the world so that he can be the only person wearing a jacket.
Mon rêve le plus cher, Georges, c'est d'être le seul blouson au monde. Le seul? Oui. Le seul blouson au monde. Je veux qu'on puisse se promener tous les deux dans les rues, sans rencontrer d'autres blousons. Ça tombe bien, ça, parce que... Moi, mon rêve le plus cher, c'est d'être la seule personne au monde à porter un blouson.
It's a premise that is as ludicrously stupid as it is profoundly brilliant. A man attempting to destroy all of the jackets in the world, a filmmaker tasked with creating a groan of pain that can win an Oscar, a pair of friends who train a giant fly as a get-rich-quick scheme, a car tire that rolls through the desert and blows things up with telepathy. These are all absurdly ridiculous and ridiculously absurd concepts, and Dupieux executes them with a sense of earnesty, treating off-the-walls insanity with respect and dedication. If there's one film of Dupieux's that people are familiar with, it's likely to be Rubber, but they might be familiar with it for the wrong reasons. The premise of a rubber tire named Robert rampaging through a desert town and blowing anything and everything up with its mind is so earth-shakingly nonsensical that the film has sort of circulated around as something to point and laugh at the ridiculousness of, but not actually watch, it seems. If you actually do watch Rubber, and if you go in with an open mind, you'll find a film that has so much more to say than its premise might lead you to believe. This isn't at all a trauma or asylum-style shock B-movie like it could appear to be from the outside. Dupieux commits so thoroughly to the stupidity of the concept while also using that same stupidity as a canvas on which to paint some supremely thought-provoking social commentary on the nature of a human being's desire for purpose and an audience's craving for wanton violence and destruction. It's wonderfully meta and is a good example of the deconstructionist side of Dupieux that pops up from time to time in his other projects. I personally think Rubber is a brilliant piece of work, but I seem to be in the extreme minority on that even amongst those who have actually watched the movie and not just laughed at its premise. Dupieux is a case of a filmmaker that I can completely understand anyone not jiving with. You need to be on his particular wavelength of absurdity, and I most definitely am.
I am taking this shovel. If I'm taking a keychain too, okay?
If you're looking for a good entry point, I think his 2018 comedy Keep an Eye Out is his most accessible work by far, while still maintaining a delicious exploration of the surreal, mainly in its deconstructionist approach to the nature of narrative flashbacks this time around. It's also really short for a feature film, so it's not a big commitment to check out. If you don't count the credits, it's only about an hour long. Dupieux's films in general tend to be on the shorter side than the average movie, even more so when compared to the recent glut of 2.5 and 3 hour long movies that don't justify their run times. Most of Dupieux's movies are under 90 minutes, and his longest is only 95 minutes, so the absurdity never outstays its welcome, and the pacing always stays tight. Deerskin might work as a good entry point as well. I was hoping that Jean Dujardin in the starring role, and a wider release than most of his other movies, would bring in a larger audience to a Dupieux film than his previous works, but that doesn't really seem to have been the case. It didn't connect with people or find a very large audience as far as I can tell, despite even being on HBO Max for a time. I'm glad that Dupieux doesn't seem to have any trouble getting projects off the ground, at least. Maybe they fare better with French audiences, and I'm just not aware. Dupieux always manages to get perfectly fitting performances out of his casts. There's no attempt toward naturalism, instead embracing the absurdity with purposefully stilted delivery. Jean Dujardin is excellent in Deerskin. Benoit Poelvoorde, who I'll always think of as the psychopath from Man Bites Dog, is magnetic in Keep an Eye Out. William Fichtner's performance in Wrong is especially memorable.
When I was 16, a friend dared me to douse my face with acid. It was stupid. I wanted to impress him, and I did it without thinking about it. But I did have a choice.
The dude basically invented a new cadence of speaking for the character, and I can hear it clear as a bell in my head right now.
I'm the founder of a company that specializes in abuse prevention for pets. I love pets more than anything in this world.
He proposed exactly what you saw on screen. He came to the first meeting and he had this random book and he started reading a few lines using that voice, you know, that weird accent, like half Indian, German, and I don't know what. And he said, yeah, I have this idea, look. So he read this piece and then he looked at me, he said, okay, if you like it? I said, yes, it's interesting. He said, okay, because that's all I have.
This accent didn't come out of anything that's... I really felt he was from this part of the world. No, A, white guy, B, Master Chang. I think we can throw some sort of speech pattern in there. I think we have the license and liberty to do that.
Don't worry, there's hope. I've hired a top-level detective to track him down.
Before I knew him as Quentin Dupieux, I knew him by another name, Mr. Oizo. Before I found his films, I was already a massive fan of his music. Quentin Dupieux releases electronic music for the Ed Banger label under the pseudonym Mr. Oizo, often featuring his mascot, Flat Eric. And I make no bones about the fact that I'm into, to put it simply, really weird shit, and Mr. Oizo's music is most definitely really weird shit. Most of it is not music that I could recommend to the majority of people, which is something I learned by trying to recommend it to people and having them be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you want to listen to that? Not all of his music is as abrasive. Plenty of it is far more accessible. One song of his in particular, Flat Beat, went mega viral, and he's had some other breakthrough hits internationally, and some collaborations that really took off. He even somehow got tied to a Levi's ad campaign that incorporated Flat Eric and was a huge success. And there's a whole complex lore with Flat Eric and a storyline that continues through multiple music videos and short films.
Another sugar lump. One see-through cassette. And that's it.
Arrêtez de vous reproduire.
When I first watched Rubber and was greatly impressed by it, I looked into who this Quentin Dupieux fellow was, and was shocked to find out that he was Monsieur Oizo. The guy's work ethic is impressive as hell, consistently pumping out great films and furthering his music career at the same time. He makes the soundtrack for most of his own films too, sometimes collaborating with other French musicians like Sébastien Gaspard Haug of Justice and Sébastien Tellier, who are all great musicians as well. And some of them even act in Dupieux's films too. If you're a fan of French electronic music, Dupieux's filmography is a real treasure trove. Dupieux sometimes incorporates Monsieur Oizo music into his movies, but also creates a lot of new music for each film. When Monsieur Oizo music pops up within his movies, it's usually diegetic and is the butt of some joke with a character calling it awful, which I find both hilarious and charmingly self-deprecating.
Okay, you can stop, I get it. Okay. That song is shit in a can.
What?
I thought it was just awful.
I disagree. This song is a huge hit.
That song sucks. Not even a tampon ad would want to use that song.
Okay, Duke, I appreciate your honesty, but I'm still gonna wait for a second opinion, okay?
You want a second opinion?
Yeah. Whoa.
There you go.
What is this? What's happening?
Just a guy from my neighborhood. I'll explain later, but he can tell you whether your song is worth anything or not.
Okay.
His other film scores have the flavor of Monsieur Oizo's usual musical output, while also feeling distinct from one another and uniquely tailored to the particular film they fit within. When he works with other musicians to create his scores like Metronomy for Mandibles, the results are strong as well. There's a rebellious spirit to Dupieux's movies that I love. I get the sense that Dupieux hates the supposed rules of storytelling and filmmaking and sets out to break as many of them as he can with reckless abandon. And I can completely understand why someone might not be able to connect with his movies or find them enjoyable, but I think they're all hilarious and fascinating in their presentation and storytelling choices. If you've never seen a Quentin Dupieux joint, check one out. They can be kind of hard to find sometimes, but they are absolutely worth the effort it takes to track them down. These movies feel perfectly tailored to my individual sensibilities, so be aware that your mileage may vary. I always appreciate when an artist can show me something I've never seen before, and Quentin Dupieux does it constantly. Thanks for watching this profile on a filmmaker and musician that I love. Check out my playlist of video essays for more to watch. I'll see you in the next video. So long.